Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of ERT. My name is Derrick.
And I'm Kara.
So yeah, this week we're going to talk about the end of an era. So every so often there's like a roller coaster that comes out that kind of sets the tone, sets like it's the new up and coming revolutionary project, you could say. So we go all the way back to, let's say, Magnum XL 200. I believe that came out in 1989. First roller coaster to break that 200-foot mark. Correction, first roller coaster to break that at a continuous circuit. Nonetheless, huge achievement. Then from there, I'd say the next truly big mile marker breaker would have been Millennium Force.
Of course.
Broke 300 feet, first continuous circuit. Actually, let's take it a step back. Superman, at the time I think it was called Superman Krypton Coaster. Now it's called Escape from Krypton. It's the launching roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain, which is currently SB&O, but nonetheless, that I believe came out in 1996. It was the first coaster to hit 100 miles an hour, 400 feet. It was just a shuttle coaster, but nonetheless, kind of give you an idea, a taste of like what to come, like what the potential was. So then Millennium Force, 300 feet, continuous circuit coaster. Quickly, fast forward, only 3 years later, you have Top Thrill Dragster, going from 300 feet to 420 feet, 120 miles an hour. And essentially since then, I know we had Kingda Ka. It broke it a little bit higher, 16 feet tall. Well, what is it, 26 feet taller? I know I'm messing this all up. But nonetheless,
you are killing this. This is terrible. They are going to roast you in the comments.
Yeah, that's fine. Nonetheless, it's almost kind of like a glorified, just a little bit bigger clone in a way. Not to say that I'm not downgrading. It's been held on to the record as the tallest and fastest roller coaster for quite some time. That went on for about 20 years. And now, 2025, we have Falcon's Flight. And I think a lot of us have been kind of sort of watching in the back of the corner. Like, we've known about this project for quite a while now. I think it was 2019, 2018 is when they kind of announced it. And a lot of us were like, okay, this is obviously fake. There's no way they're going to build it. And the craziest thing about it is that original rendering is extremely close to the actual layout of the roller coaster, which is the most mind-boggling thing because it looked so insanely weird. We're like, that's obviously not the layout. Why would you have this weird section? And like all of that's in the ride. Yeah, there were some pictures, some video that was released recently that really gives you the scope of how massive this roller coaster is, to the point of like, this is truly the next generation roller coaster. Like, this is like, it feels almost like the apex of roller coasters. I'm trying to think to the last time where we had one roller coaster that has held all three records of the tallest, the fastest, and longest. I consider those like the trifecta of records for roller coasters. There's a lot of rides that have always had they got the fastest, or they had the tallest, or they had the longest. The longest always been kind of like separate, but having all three together is truly groundbreaking. I think we're going all the way back to like the 70s when we've seen all three of those together. But yeah, now you have this coaster that's going to completely obliterate any record prior. It's like a mile longer than the next longest roller coaster, which is insane. It's over 100 feet taller than the next roller coaster. Speed-wise, it's 155 miles an hour. So I think it's like 6 miles an hour faster than Formula Rossa, I think. I would have to look up I should have pulled up RCDB. Off the top of my head. But nonetheless, you have this insane roller coaster. I don't think we've ever seen this type of project yet in our entire lifetime. Even I think it eclipsed what Millennium Force did, what Top Thrill Dragster did with this one project, just because how incredibly massive it is. But at the same time, I said it's the end of an era, because this roller coaster is not opening in the United States. Sorry, I'm going to get a little national here. So I think, obviously, I don't. How could we go about this? So as Americans, we've always had like the biggest, greatest, whatever roller coaster in the United States. We've always been the one that have pushed the envelope of building the next tallest, the next fastest. Didn't always have the longest, but nonetheless, many consider it kind of like the capital roller coaster capital of the world. I mean, that's Cedar Point.
That's Cedar Point.
What everybody really considers. And with this, I kind of feel like it's taking the title. It's no longer United States holds that as the capital. It's now going to be Saudi Arabia, I guess. With not only do they have that one roller coaster, it's not like they're just opening this one ride. They have a few other roller coasters that look quite impressive that are going to be pretty good coasters. I would say all of them are going to be like solid e-ticket attractions. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be sleeping on any of those. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because at the same time as they are building this massive roller coaster, we are tearing down our tallest and fastest roller coaster as we speak. As this video drops, it very well may be that Kingda Ka has officially dropped because we've been kind of waiting on the final implosion date. Everything has pretty much been ripped down other than the tower, and they're just waiting to knock that tower down. So probably by the time this drops, that tower might very well be gone.
Yes.
So that's kind of like where I'm at right now, just kind of thinking like the transitions that we're going through from what we had, that we see that's happening over there, pushing the envelope, breaking records. Yes, here we're always quote unquote breaking records. It's, they're all the gimmicky records, as I like to put it. Like to me, as I said, the trifecta is the tallest, fastest, longest roller coaster, not the tallest, fastest dive coaster or multi-launch coaster.
Single rail.
Yeah, single rail coaster, because that one has gotten blown way out of proportion. No, tallest, fastest, longest roller coaster. No debate. I am the biggest. I am the baddest. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool to see that happening, but it's kind of sad at the same time, like, why don't we have it here?
Well, so you're disappointed that it's not happening in the United States.
Yes, and again, that's obviously being selfish because there's way more people out in the world besides here that will probably have better access to this attraction than we will. But nonetheless, if anything that I'm pointing at is, are we losing that touch, that drive to continue to innovate here in the United States? Are we just kind of coasting along? Like the last major project, when I talk about like height and scale, would have been Orion in 2020. And that just barely be classified as a giga. And I know there's some out there will complain that it's actually a hyper coaster, it's not a giga, but
you're not including Top Thrill 2 in this because it was already
there? It's already
came
in. I mean, that was already there. They just added on. I mean, yes.
They added the spike and
yes,
the
I
launch.
would say that there's some significance to that for sure. But I'm just referring to in like ground up brand new roller coaster. Is a reimagining of a coaster that already existed.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I could kind of slightly take that back because that is, I mean, I do think it is an achievement of some sort, and I'm glad to see
if they can get it open.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Come on, Cedar Point.
Glad to see parks are pushing it. Obviously, we have tilt coasters coming, but Saudi Arabia is going to have the tallest and fastest tilt coaster, by the way. I think that one's going to be 200 feet, and ours will not be 200 feet here in the U.S. So there's that. But obviously we have Epic Universe. And again, I'm okay with this stuff because I think it's kind of like a transition. So if we look over in like Europe, the theme parks over there have been heavily themed, very intricate. Everybody says that their theming there is top notch. You come to the United States, outside of like 4 parks, maybe. I'll even try to argue to say it might be less. I know you might be like, wait a second, what about Busch Gardens? And yeah, they have theming. It's better than going to like a Cedar Fair or a Six Flags park, but nothing on the same level that they do overseas. And now I think there's a slight transition. So we have Epic Universe coming down the road, which looks like it's just going to blow it out of the water when it comes to theming. But we're not bringing any like the Americanized roller coaster that's the biggest and baddest. So I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. What do you think of this ramblingness that I'm going on about?
Are you telling me that we're going to Saudi Arabia? Is that what you're trying to get at by all of this?
I don't know. I'm not putting it out in the pasture yet. So I am not ready to say we're not going to go.
Let's see the roller coaster actually open. Let's see it run, and let's see it be consistent before we book that plane ticket. Because
exactly. That's my whole thing. If I know the coaster is going to be open, then I will be a lot more comfortable about booking that flight. Because could you, again, as I've said this already in the past, could you imagine booking a flight, flying halfway across the world in the main attraction that you're going for? That's such a huge main attraction that it eclipses anything else there in the park. Because everything else in the park is still good, great even, probably. But it's not Falcon's Flight. I mean, so yeah, could you imagine flying halfway across the world and not getting to ride that coaster?
Well,
that
yes,
would be,
obviously, that would be the ultimate disappointment.
Yes. And I guess I better pay attention to the height requirements because Pantheon, I'm like an inch under the maximum height limit.
I don't even know if you're full inch. I mean, you like, depending on how high your hair is that day.
I better not wear a hat because if I wear a hat, it will probably put me over the, well, I'll probably have to take it off because they have measured me a couple times and I'm always just underneath it, depending on like the shoes. Now, they haven't really cared the last time that I was there as much as they did the first year. The first year, they were very stringent about that maximum height. Now, I don't know if they just sort of, let it, maybe they have a little bit more room. I don't know.
Well, the last time we were at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Pantheon didn't open that day at all. So
no, it
that's
did not,
probably
it was not
why
open last year when we were there.
In your mind you're thinking, oh,
but
they've
in
never
2023, when I wrote it, I didn't really feel like it was as big of a deal.
So if we're talking about innovation and almost this war of who's going to build the next biggest and best or innovate in a new way, who would you put on the scene as going to be the next player in that game? As whether it's a company or a park or a, I don't know, like a, what am I trying to say? Like an IP, that's not the right word I'm looking for.
Like a manufacturer?
Like a manufacturer or like who would you be looking at and saying like, I'm interested to see what they do because I think they'll be the next ones to innovate here in the United States.
In the United States is the key word, right?
Right.
So manufacturer, I mean, I'm always going to put my money on Intamin because they've essentially been leading the way when it comes to these record-breaking attractions. Before, we used to see that with Aerodynamics before they went under. Like their last revolutionary project was X2 with their 4D roller coaster. Or I guess it was X coaster at the time. But anyways, Intamin has always been the one pushing it with the height limit, how fast, how tall can we go. So yeah, Intamin. However, when we look at like theme park industry, this is the problem though. Like here in the United States, almost every major theme park is owned by a chain, and a lot of them we've been really seeing that corporate-esque coming from them. Not to say there's anything wrong with it, but because again, you have to, bottom line when it comes to a corporation, you have stockholders to answer to. You have, a bottom line that you have to achieve. And as versus going all out crazy, building a $100 million investment that you might not see the return on that investment for a very long time is not always the smartest choice when you could build something, a fraction of the cost that will still get the boost in attendance.
Right, which is why I feel like all we've been seeing for like the last 5 years it feels like is these little like family coasters.
Yeah, and as we're seeing this year as well, there's a lot more attention going into retheming. Kentucky Kingdom is retheming a whole section of their park for good measure because that park really needed some TLC, especially the one end. And they've known that too, so I'm really glad that I think it's Herschend Parks. Herschend Parks is the one that owns them, is putting that love and care towards Kentucky Kingdom because they have, at least right now, they have 2 fantastic roller coasters and that good family coaster. So you see that, obviously, Kennywood's retheming Thomastown, but nonetheless, even Kennywood over the past few years has been investing into their buildings and just changing the whole facade, really cleaning it up, making it look nicer. Because I think, at least most parks in the United States, we've had the infrastructure when it comes to roller coasters. We have the tallest, we have the fastest, we have a ton of coasters. You look at somewhere like Carowinds that has like all these roller coasters, some of them not that good, but whatever. They're starting to pay more attention to that. They're saying, well, now we kind of need to clean some of the crap out and we need to put a little more fresh paint on the side of some of the buildings. We kind of need to add more theming. We need to add some more immersiveness to our attractions. And that's kind of like what they're doing. So we're not per se getting like new rides and whatnot, but we're seeing areas getting overhauled.
Well, I was going to say, I saw somebody posted just recently that a whole bunch of information was dug up about Kings Island. The Kings Island is pretty much renovating a lot of their like souvenir shops. A lot of their restrooms are getting major renovations. A lot of their restaurants are getting major renovations. And it's it has the same feel as like the renovations that Kennywood has done over the last couple of years, just putting all of their attention into freshening everything up, making it feel really clean and really nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like these parks have that infrastructure. Like Kings Island has a bunch of amazing roller coasters, but they kind of lack somewhat in their cohesiveness when it comes to like the theming in the area, where it's kind of like a smorgasbord all over the place. Like, which has kind of always been like the Six Flags way as well. Like, obviously DC Comics has like taken over a lot of their major Six Flags parks, but nonetheless, they've always had like these quote unquote themed areas, but it was like every 10 feet was like this new themed area. And it's just kind of like, wait, you have 15 themed lands in one park? Like, doesn't even make sense. Like, which is why you see like the new parks like Epic Universe, or I mean, some of the major true themed parks like Disney World, Universal Studios, they have a handful of themed areas, like 4 or 5. And it's for good measure, because you really want those areas to fully captivate you, and you can't captivate you every 50 feet into a different world, because they all just start to blend together and then it just looks weird. Like, you can't be walking through Wild Wild West town and then 10 feet later it's something completely different,
sci-fi or something
completely, or not even any theming at all. It just feels like completely random out of the blue, which is kind of like what Six Flags has had. And now I think they're going back, and you're not going to do it all at once, because obviously that's a major investment, but they're slowly going through and really cleaning this up. So Six Flags Great Adventure, they're knocking out Kingda Ka. That section of the park has always been, I mean, granted, there could be an argument to say there's a lot of sections of the park that's a little weird. I mean, the park is just a strange in how it's designed, it's laid out. It's pretty much like a giant line.
Yeah.
Really? It's not like, there's not like the good circle path to it. It's either you walk left, you walk right. There are some like loops on both ends, but nonetheless, that's how it's designed. That corner over there, especially like El Toro, for the longest time, you could not just get from El Toro over to Kingda Ka unless you walked all the way back over to the main midway that would go down to like Superman Ultimate Flight. They finally built a pathway that kind of cut through it a little bit closer, made it so much better. So now I think you're going to see, with Kingda Ka gone, I think we're going to see that whole area kind of get connected together. El Toro is not going to be separate from this new attraction. That's my gamble. Either they're going to expand.
I don't think that's what you meant to say.
Wait, what?
You said from that new attraction. I'm like, what new attraction?
New attraction, yeah, El Toro's a new. I'm talking about the new attraction as in the roller coaster that's going to replace Kingda Ka. I'm sorry, that's what I was really trying to say.
Oh, okay. We don't
know what it is, but yeah, we know it's on the way. I mean, we're hearing 2026, but at the same time, it seems too soon, if you ask me. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll get the announcement in 2026 to open in 2027, but because by the time you knock that coaster down, they're really gonna have to move in full steam ahead into whatever this new attraction is. But what I'm saying is, I think El Toro and the new attraction, that whole area is going to be kind of connected together to make it a more cohesive section of the park. And that's going to really enhance Six Flags Great Adventure. And we're seeing that slowly at that park too. So back to my infrastructure, we have that, but now we need to kind of get things cleaned up, because that's where European parks have always had that edge over us. They have always had the best immersive themed attractions, roller coasters, and we've been falling behind, but we've been pushing the envelope. So now we're kind of like, well, let's dab a little bit more into the theming. And now we got, I guess, Saudi Arabia just completely blowing everybody out of the water with it.
I don't think theming is like the end all be all though, right?
No.
I mean, not every park has to be Epic Universe.
No, I don't think they have to be Epic Universe, but there is something about even when I say theming, maybe it's not always just theming, but how well kept the park is and how pretty it looks, I guess would be the
Well, I was
best.
going to say, I feel like cohesive
Yes.
is the better word. Like, how does everything fit together as far as your signage and your storefronts and like the feel of your restaurants and the design of your midway? And how does it all fit together, or does it feel like when you go from one section to the next that we have entered a new world? So cohesive, I feel like, is the better word, because everything doesn't have to be heavily themed.
Which is why, okay, when I kind of threw that little dig at Busch Gardens saying like, well, they don't really have the theming. They do have nice theming, but heavier on the gardens, heavier on the prettiness of those parks. Those parks are very well laid out. They look very pretty. Some of the roller coasters may not have like the theming that we would all just would love, like Pantheon is just practically sitting in a field. But nonetheless, everything else around it looks very nice. And I think that's something amusement parks kind of has like that stigmatism to it, that it's like a step up carnival. Because a carnival is just a bunch of randomness, bright colors, popcorn, cotton candy, everything fried, kind of food atmosphere that you smell. The rides are all rickety or whatnot. But so, yeah, if anything, it doesn't have to be themed. I think you hit on a good point there. It's not as much as theming, but the quality of the place that you're going to. Because when you go to an amusement park, it's not per se that you want to always be transported into a new themed area, but you want to feel like you escaped the real world.
Yes.
And you're enjoying this other place that you can relax, you can enjoy. Everything looks pretty. You're not like, oh, I can see the dumpster, behind that building. Like that kind of stuff. Like, all presentation. That's what I'm kind of excited. I think the new Six Flags anyway is paying more attention to.
Okay, so you're saying that because you started off talking about like the tallest, fastest, longest.
Yeah.
And you're saying like the US parks are now kind of switching gears. And you think we're going to see this era of more cohesive, like themed parks, other than like outside of, we're not trying to break records, we're not trying to be innovative, we're just trying to make these really nice places.
Yes, even though every coaster that gets built seems to have some sort of ridiculous, gimmicky, record-breaking tagline.
Well, sure, they have to say something. That's marketing.
Marketing, but nonetheless, yes, I think it's really pushing down to because record breaking does always mean quality, but I still think most of those in general are good quality. But yeah, more cohesiveness to our parks, bringing them to the 20th century, and I don't know, making amusement parks great again. So yeah, check out my hat. But yeah, that's something definitely that I'm starting to see as the direction of the parks here. Now, with that said, though, if anything, I'm going back to Kingda Ka again. Kingda Ka is gone. We no longer have the tallest, fastest, longest. We technically haven't had the fastest in a while, but we've held on to the tallest record for such a long time. And it's always kind of felt like that's an American thing. So now I'm just kind of curious. I know I'm jumping all over the place here. I'm going back, but will we see the tallest record come back to the United States? Is it possible to truly break beyond this 600-foot height? Like, is this like, no, seriously, like at what point, how tall can we truly go with a roller coaster to where is it even classified as a roller coaster anymore? If you know what I'm saying, like, because we all have our mind, like, thinking futuristic. Oh, we'll have coasters 5,000 feet in the air, and it's not going to happen. I mean, it's no longer. I mean, make no sense. And so, yeah, that kind of makes me wonder, like, will we see a massive project like that here in the U.S.? And who would be crazy enough to build it? Which was kind of like what you were asking at that one point.
Well, right, that would be my question.
I have no idea.
Which park do you think would be crazy enough?
All eyes always seem to point to Cedar Point.
Cedar Point.
But
that's very interesting, because when you start at the very beginning, almost every coaster you listed as like the new start of a new era was all Cedar Point.
Cedar Point, yeah. And so the fact that this isn't happening, like, that's what I'm saying. It's not happening here in the United States. It's not happening at Cedar Point. How dare this? So will Cedar Point turn around? I have no idea. If they did, they would really have to, not to say that they don't have land. They have land, but it would be more tricky to use. And to build a massive project like this, you would have to knock some stuff down, because this isn't something that you can just plop into the the old Frontierland or whatever it was, that island, the Forbidden Island or whatever the heck it was, Forbidden Frontier or whatnot. But
yeah.
Not going to fit there. Let's just put it that way.
There's space, but not that kind of space.
Like, you would have to, Magnum or something like that would have to
I don't even feel like that's enough. Like, I feel like half the park would have to get bulldozed to make room for something like this.
Who knows?
Well, in order to break the record, right?
Well,
because that's what we're talking about, is actually breaking the new record.
To put this into perspective, Falcon's flight is more than twice as long than Millennium Force. That's how long the roller coaster's in. So twice as long. It's actually, I think Millennium Force is somewhere around like 6,000, between 6,000 and 7,000 feet. It's closer to the lower end of the 6,000 feet long. This ride is over 13,000 feet long. So like I said, it's more than double the length of Millennium Force. And it's also double in height of Millennium Force. So it's literally twice as big, is the best way to put it. So yeah, I mean, space-wise, there are parks out there that have the space.
Yes.
But then the interesting thing about Falcon's Flight is it uses the side of like this canyon, this cliff. And I don't know of any theme parks other than per se like Six Flags Fiesta Texas that has such close access to like a cliff side. I mean, in some ways Kennywood does, but yeah, they're not.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to get the 700-foot coaster.
Oh my gosh.
But no, but exactly what you're saying. Like, not only do you have to have the space for that, the El Toro Ryan does it the best, just breaking down the roller coaster and how these elements are just so massively spaced out, which you can see in this video if I can even post it. Somebody standing at the top of at the top of the base of the canyon, if that makes any sense. So there's the canyon, and then down here where it kind of goes to the slope on Falcon's Flight. Somebody's standing there looking up at the vertical drop there, and then looking down how the roller coaster continues down the side of the mountain. And it looks like it's a mile away until you get to like the massive, giant 550-foot Camelback Hill or whatever it is.
Well, it probably is a mile away.
But because of how fast and then the slope it is of you going out of that drop is just so stretched out because of obviously the G forces. So yeah, any park here in the U.S. would need a ton of land. And there are some parks that have it. But yeah, would they do it? I really don't know. To me, I feel like this would have to be at like a brand new theme park in the U.S. And who would be crazy enough in the U.S. to do that? Like, I don't know. Maybe, I guess I keep thinking like Arizona, which again, they have the super hot summers. Hot. But nonetheless, so does Saudi Arabia. They're kind of in the same boat, which is pretty interesting. This park, in fact, is actually going to be designed, especially over their hotter months, to open up later in the evening, like 7 or 8 or something, and then close. Whoop, I'm going to knock my mic off. And stay open until like past midnight or something. So it's going to be pretty fascinating that you'll have a lot of night rides there. So is that something you could see here in the United States? I really don't know. But again, that's also like aiming very much as touristy destination. People are traveling everywhere from the world to go to this place. And I guess a place like Phoenix would have to do the same thing. It would have to be the world destination attraction. So I don't know. They have the Grand Canyon not too far away.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if we could build a coaster into the Grand Canyon?
I mean, I'm sure that, you're not the only person who's ever fantasized about that, but that would not be allowed.
Yeah.
Ever.
Probably for good reason. But nonetheless, there's other neat looking canyons there that you could definitely use. But which is why it popped in my head, Arizona. So yeah, that's why it kind of feels depressing, as in like somebody else is getting this record. They're probably going to hold on to it for a very, very long time. I don't know who's ever going to break it. I really don't know, especially here in the US. It would be very interesting. You could see like one of those like tower coasters, that's like 700 feet tall, but it doesn't really have a drop bigger than 50 feet because it just like wraps around the tower or something like that. Or maybe you'll have like one massive drop that goes all the way down and like practically breaks at the end. But I couldn't see us getting, I could see us getting the fastest coaster again, maybe the tallest coaster again, but I don't ever see us getting the tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster. Again, the 3 records together is what makes this so impressive. Like I said, it's just we haven't seen it, again, I think it's since the 70s. So we're talking over 50 years since we've seen one roller coaster bring all those 3 records back together. And who knows the next time we'll ever see that again. It'll probably be another 50 years, I guess, outside of our lifetime.
Oh my goodness.
So
speak for yourself. I'm living forever.
Yes. We'll still be like 35 and 50 more years. So it's just how it works. You just stay at a certain age. And, But I don't know. I know this video is just a bunch of complete rambling nonsense, but I just really just can't help thinking about it. Just seeing Kingda Ka, it going away, and seeing this other park getting this massive new thing. But
you're jealous.
I am.
It's okay.
So I don't know. But like I said, will we go to Saudi Arabia? I don't know. Every single day I keep saying we're not going to go. We're not going to go. Now I'm like, well, I mean, keep an eye out on those prices,
Somebody
for those
should
flights.
Sponsor us to go.
Yes, and we would totally do it. I mean, since those passports showed up in the mail, now I'm like, well, I guess we probably could go. Now it's actually an option on the table. Like I have the access. I guess we have to see about what you have to do for a visa to go there. But anyways, until next time, this is Extreme Thrills.